Welcome to the Swamp Gas Podcast. So, the alien abduction is a common story we hear not only within the UFO community, but within society. I want to propose an alternative idea about how someone may think that they might have been abducted. Because nobody in my group, including myself, has been abducted by an extraterrestrial or know anyone who has. I also don't know anyone who has made the claim to have been abducted. I think it's worth considering an alternative explanation to this seemingly shared experience. So, firstly, it's vital to be aware that the extraterrestrial phenomenon is real. I previously mentioned that my first meeting was at an unlikely location, which was at a cafe. The second meeting was the first pickup, where my new friend Jim met me at a designated place, and we took a short trip in a small spacecraft. The system for meeting new group members is designed for a reason. Our extraterrestrial guests, while they can speak telepathically, are still not mind readers. And while they were fully aware of my interests in the extraterrestrial phenomenon beforehand, they could not be sure of how I would personally react to my first encounter and my first trip. This is the reason why they initially use a human resource liaison. So I've been going up for over 11 years now, and I've met over 1,000 people within our group. If you consider that there are only 50 available seats on a craft, it gives you a perspective on how often people drop out. It's also important to note that there's not only one craft that picks you up. Sometimes, depending on your location, you might be picked up by a smaller craft and then meet with your group at the site. Sometimes you also encounter different people on the same craft because not everybody can go up every time. With that said, the turnover rate is relatively high for a variety of reasons. Quite frequently, people never get past the first meeting, let alone the first trip on a craft. I can confirm this to be true because I've been in HRL for around 8 years now. I've seen people have psychological breakdowns in our first meeting, especially during our first trip. As I mentioned, you never know how someone will react until they find themselves in a situation. And let's be honest, this is quite the experience. So, in psychology, there is something called dissociative amnesia. Dissociative amnesia is a condition in which a person cannot remember important information about his or her life. This forgetting may be limited to specific areas, which is thematic, or it might include much of the person's life history and or identity, and we call that general, right? In the situation we're talking about, it would be considered thematic. Dissociative amnesia has been linked to overwhelming stress, which may be caused by either traumatic events such as war, abuse, accidents, disasters, alien abductions. So the person may have suffered the trauma or just witnessed it. There also seems to be a genetic inherited connection in dissociative amnesia. Close relatives often tend to develop it. So most cases of dissociative amnesia are relatively short. Often when memories return, they do so suddenly and sometimes completely. Memory recovery may happen on its own or after being triggered by something in the person's surroundings or during therapy. Often when memory is recovered, the recovered memory might feel like a dream and less a memory, especially if the event was extremely traumatic or overwhelming to the person. In this situation, the lead up to the event may often remain missing. And then the brain is then left to fill in the blanks. I think you might know what I'm getting at right now. So, from my experiences with the number of people who can't get past the first trip. And having watched some people have physical mental breakdowns, there is a distinct possibility they may have just developed dissociative amnesia. I mean, think about it. How many times have you heard someone witness or experience an event and then they just can't remember what happened or even how they got to that place? You know, this often really seriously bothers the person. And while they are either conscious or dreaming, their brain begins to fill in the blanks. And if we consider all of the accounts of people talking about how they were abducted and describing the event, we might be hearing false or distorted memories. So I'm not saying that everyone claiming to have been abducted by aliens is outright lying, although I'm sure that there is a percentage of them just hopping on the bandwagon. It's just one of those topics, you know. What I'm saying is that they very well may have made contact, but when they were facing the situation, the experience was so overwhelming and stressful that their brain couldn't process the information, resulting in dissociative amnesia. When their memory came back, maybe the missing pieces were filled in with pop culture or irrational fears. Now, let me be clear. As I've stated before, I only know what I know. However, the question of alien abductions has been asked many times before, and our extraterrestrial guests have said that they have never abducted anyone, and they don't know of it to be true. With that said, I know that there are multiple races of extraterrestrials on Earth, as I have seen some. I've never spoken with anyone outside of our hosts, but I've physically seen them in passing, and we've talked about the different species. So I guess anything is possible, right? It just doesn't seem probable, considering what we know. So that's it. If you want to know more about the UFO phenomenon, please visit our website at www.swampgas.info and click on the resource section for links to videos of other people's encounters with extraterrestrial crafts. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day.